Hello everyone, welcome back to online lecture series on heat transfer. We are continuing our topic of condensation and boiling. So first of all we will do a quick revision of our previous topics. So condensation is a fluid in gaseous or vapor phase changes to liquid phase with liberation of heat from the vapor. And the important thing here is the surface temperature should be Ts, which should be lower than the saturation temperature T set corresponding to the vapor pressure. And here there are two types of condensation. First is film condensation, in which there is a continuous film of liquid condensate over the entire surface, and the liquid flows down the cooling surface under the action of gravity. And this film that is created because of condensation offers thermal resistance and restricts further transfer of heat between vapor and surface. And this is the second category, which is dropwise condensation, in which there is no continuity in the condensation process. The liquid condensate are collected in droplets and they do not wet the solid cooling surface. And this droplets develops in cracks and pits on the surface, grow in size and break away from the surface. So here there is no film created, so there will not be any kind of barrier to heat flow, and higher heat transfer rates are experienced. The next is laminar film condensation on the vertical plate. So here the thickness of the film is 0 at the upper end, that is over here at point O. It gradually increases as further condensation occurs at the liquid vapor interface, and it reaches its maximum value at the lower end of the plate. The analysis is based on the following assumptions that we have already discussed, so we will not spend time on this. And here we obtained the velocity distribution. So finally we are obtaining velocity distribution as rho g divided by mu into delta y minus y square by 2. Mass flow rate, the next is heat flux. And here we obtained that delta is proportional to fourth root of the distance down the surface. The last was heat transfer coefficient, for which we used the Fourier's law and the Newton's law of cooling. So we obtained that Hx is equal to k upon delta. So the heat transfer coefficient is inversely proportional to the thickness. Then we obtained the value of Hx, and we also obtained the value of average heat transfer coefficient, that is 4 by 3 HL. And this is the variation of film coefficient and film thickness with respect to plate height. So as plate height increases, the film thickness increases, and as the plate height increases, the film coefficient decreases. for inclined surface, the value of g changes to g sin theta as shown in this figure. And here h inclination is equal to h vertical into sin theta raised to 0.25. The last theory of our previous lecture was turbulent film condensation. Here we saw that initially it is a laminar film, then a transition film, and last one is the turbulent film. So now we will be discussing about turbulent film. And here when the turbulence sets in, the condensate film no longer offers high thermal resistance as it does in laminar film, and here heat is transferred not only by conduction but also by eddy diffusion, which is the characteristic of turbulence. And here Reynolds number comes into picture. And finally we are getting the value of Reynolds number as this. And Kirkbride has suggested the following correlation for the average heat transfer coefficient, which is only applicable to turbulent flow, and it is valid only for Reynolds number greater than 1800. And now we are beginning a new topic today, that is convective film coefficient for condensation on tubes. So now let's begin. First we will discuss about vertical tubes. When the tube diameter is large compared to the film thickness, that is when d, that is tube diameter, is greater than delta, that is film thickness, and the convective coefficient for condensation on vertical tubes are calculated by Nusselt's correlation for film condensation on vertical flat surface. That is, we will be using Nusselt's correlation, which is here h bar is given by this formula, which we have already seen. And next is, so see here there will be some correlations in this chapter which we need to accept. There will not be any kind of derivation for such kind of equations, because we have already seen such kind of empirical correlations in free and forced convection also, where we don't go into any form of derivation, we simply accept them and use it. Okay, so now the next is single horizontal tube. The average coefficient for the film condensation of a pure saturated vapor on the outside of single horizontal tube is determined from the correlation given by this formula. So if you see, what is the difference that we are observing here is, first of all, the coefficient has been reduced from 0.943 to 0.725. Then instead of length in case which was present in vertical tube, we have diameter instead of that, where d is outside diameter of the tube. It is interesting to note that the relative effectiveness of effectiveness of horizontal and vertical tubes as condensing surfaces is given by this formula. The ratio that I was discussing about, the difference that we are having is only in coefficients and in the dimension. So the horizontal average value of heat transfer coefficient for horizontal tube and vertical tube is given by this formula. So this is the only difference that is there. The next is banks of horizontal tubes. For a vertical tier of n horizontal tubes, the average convection coefficient for film condensation is given by this formula. So here if you see, if you compare these two equations, then the only difference is coming is in diameter d. Here it was d and here it is DE. Where D is what? DE is equivalent tube diameter of the tube bank is the sum of outside tube diameter in a vertical column of tube bank pattern. So if this portion is not visible to you, that is bottom right, I'm speaking at it again, that here DE is the equivalent tube diameter of tube bank, which is the sum of outside tube diameter in the vertical column of tube bank pattern. So now we will see what is the exact value of DE in our next slide. So consider this as a case. So here there are 4 tubes in a vertical column of tube bank pattern. That is, as you can see, 1, 2, 3 and 4. There are 4 columns. 4 tubes are present in a single column. So as n is equal to 4, our equivalent diameter will be 4 times D. So what you need to do in such cases, that the number of tubes will be multiplied with the tube diameter, that will give us equivalent diameter DE. And this is the case of film condensation on horizontal cylinders that we will discuss now. So here for n tubes in a vertical column of tube bank pattern, DE is equal to n into D, where D is diameter of single tube in the bank. A reduction in film coefficient with increasing n may be attributed to an increase in the average film thickness for each successive tube due to accumulation of drip from the upper tubes. So here this is important, that H, in such cases H will decrease. Why? Because delta decreases, H decreases because delta increases in this case. That is having inverse relationship, because if you recall, we were having H is inversely proportional to delta, that we have seen in our previous lecture. So as delta is increasing, H is decreasing. And here delta increases because of accumulation of drip from the upper tubes. Now it is always advantageous to stagger the tubes. As the accumulation of drip from the upper rows is at least partially offset by splashing effects. So this negative effect here can be solved by using staggering of tubes. So here, if you see this figure, then here it is by here the agitation caused by a drip as it falls from one tube to another. So as you can see here, this is a continuously tubes are in same position vertically, but here we have provided some offset here. Now condensation inside the tubes. Condensation of vapor occurs on the inside surface of cylindrical tubes in condensers of refrigeration and air conditioning systems and in many chemical and petrochemical industries. So such kind of condensation inside tubes is observed in refrigeration and air conditioning applications. The flowing vapor, however, strongly influences the character and thickness of condensate film that affects the heat transfer. And the magnitude of this effect depend upon the horizontal or vertical disposition of the tubes and also upon the upward or downward flow direction. Now we will start our new topic, that is boiling. Now boiling constitutes the convective heat transfer process that involves a phase change from liquid to vapor. So this is a completely a reversal case than condensation. So here what we are having boiling is going from liquid state to vapor state. For that what we require a heat to be supplied to the liquid, and it occurs when the heated surface is exposed to liquid and is maintained at a temperature above the saturation temperature of the liquid. So here the surface will be heated and it will be at a higher temperature than the saturation temperature of liquid. The boiling process has several applications. Like first, production of steam in the nuclear and steam power plants, for generation and industrial applications, and for space heating. Second is absorption of heat in the refrigeration and air conditioning systems. Third is concentration, dehydration and drying of foods and materials. Fourth is distillation and refining of liquids. Now the boiling phenomena can occur in different forms. Let's see them one by one. First is known as pool boiling. So here the liquid above the hot surface is essentially stagnant. So here let's take some small example here, that here this is the hot plate where the temperature is Ts, and above it a liquid is flowing above it in this way. So liquid is actually stagnant in this case, so it is kept as it is not moving here. So liquid is here as it is stagnant, and obviously this temperature is greater than T set. So the only motion near the surface is because of free convection, as it is still and mixing, the motion is also due to the mixing induced by the bubble growth and detachment. So there is no much motion present here, and here the pool boiling occurs in steam boilers employing natural convection. Second is forced convection boiling. The fluid motion is induced by external means. So this is just like a difference between free and forced convection here, that fluid motion here is induced by external means. The liquid is pumped and forced across the surface in controlled manner. The free convection and bubble induced mixing also contributes towards the fluid motion. So here two things which are contributing towards the motion of fluid. First is external means as well as the bubble induced mixing. In case of pool boiling, only the free convection and bubble growth and detachment was responsible for the fluid motion. Next is subcooled or local boiling. The temperature of liquid is here below the saturation temperature. Here the boiling takes place only in the vicinity of heated surfaces. So this is a localized phenomena which is happening at some specific spots, that is in the heated surface only. Here the vapor bubbles which are created travel only a shorter path and then they vanish. Apparently here they condense in the bulk of liquid which is at temperature less than the boiling point. So what is exactly happening over here, that the temperature of liquid is lower than the saturation temperature. They just get boiled only in the vicinity of heated surface. They travel a short path and then again they condense at the temperature lower than the boiling point. So this is only a short time boiling which is happening in the heated surface only. Fourth is saturated boiling. The temperature of liquid exceeds the saturation temperature. So this is completely a reverse case than the subcooled or local boiling. So in subcooled or local boiling, the temperature of liquid was below saturation temperature, and here the temperature of liquid is above the saturation temperature. The vapor bubbles generated at the solid surface are transported through the liquid by buoyancy effects. So these vapor bubbles are transported along with the liquid and eventually they escape from the surface, and the actual vaporization process then sets in. So this is the exact way how boiling happens in saturated boiling. That is, the temperature is higher, the vapor bubbles are generated, they are transported along with the liquid, and then they escape the surface. Now our next topic is boiling regimes. So whether the boiling phenomenon is corresponds to cool boiling or forced circulation boiling, there are three definite regimes of the boiling associated with the progressively increasing flux. So we will discuss this in very detail one by one. So boiling regimes have been shown in the figure. So let's see the figure first. So this is the figure on which this is called as boiling curve for water. Surface heat flux as a function of excess temperature. So this is, if you see here, on the horizontal axis we are having temperature excess Ts minus Tsat in degrees Celsius, and regarding the surface heat flux we are having log of heat transfer coefficient. That is log H here. Now which are three different phases? Here first is interface evaporation, that is this one. Second is for the bubbles, and third is the film. So even these three are divided into number of different stages, that are total. Here we are having 6 different stages, and if you see the curve carefully, then from the origin O till point A, it is having the positive slope, that is, as temperature excess increases, the heat flux increases, but beyond point A, there is a reverse trend up to certain point, and then again it starts increasing. So We will discuss them one by one. Here, for this temperature axis Ts minus Tsat, Ts is the temperature of hot surface and Tsat is the temperature of corresponds to pressure at which the liquid is being evaporated. A rise in the slope, a rise of the slope indicates increasing heat flux with increase in the temperature axis, and the boiling regime is stable. So when we are seeing a positive slope, the boiling regime is stable. However, when the slope decreases, the boiling regime is unstable and it must be avoided. And these different regimes can be illustrated by considering electrically heated horizontal wire submerged in the pool of liquid at the saturation temperature. And the heat flux is easily controlled by voltage drop across a wire of fixed resistance. So here, this is the way the experiment can be conducted with electrically heated horizontal wire, and we can change the voltage so that we can change the heat flux also. So we will discuss this curve in detail one by one. So first phase is evaporation process with no bubble formation. First is evaporation process with no bubble formation, that is also known as interface evaporation. So here the boiling takes place in a thin layer of liquid which adjoins the heated surface. So we are now currently discussing about the interface location. So here the liquid which is in immediate vicinity of the wall becomes superheated. So the temperature of liquid exceeds the saturation temperature at a given pressure. So here the point is that this is happening at the interface, and this whole region, so what happens, that liquid is superheated. In this region we are discussing about this portion right now, interface evaporation, where the liquid is superheated. So now the saturated liquid rises to a liquid vapor interface where the evaporation takes place. Now the fluid motion is determined by free convection effects. The heat transfer rate increases but gradually with growth in the temperature excess. And this can be seen here also, that the growth of heat flux with the temperature excess is comparatively slow. Till the interface evaporation. So heat flux slowly increases with the temperature excess. Second case is nucleate boiling, and if we see in the figure what happens in nucleate boiling here, that here also it keeps on increasing in this region. So here in nucleate boiling, when the liquid is overheated in the relation to saturation temperature, the vapor bubbles are formed at certain favorable spots known as nucleation or activation sites. So this is important thing here, that vapor bubbles are formed at nucleation or active sites. This may be now where we can find such active sites at wall surface irregularities, air bubbles and particles of dust. Now here the bubbles grow in certain size influenced by pressure, temperature, surface tension at the liquid vapor interface. So bubbles grow here at active sites, and depending upon the temperature excess, the nucleate boiling is essentially consists of the following stages. First is bubbles form and they collapse on the surface itself. Second is bubbles form on the heated surface, but they get condensed in the liquid after detaching from the surface. So they are formed and they are condensed here. Third is bubbles form, break away from the heated surface with increased frequency and intensity. The liquid, however, is quite hot and bubbles do not get condensed. So here bubbles are not getting condensed and they rise to liquid surface and directly expelled to the vapor space that helps in rapid evaporation. So there are three stages that happens here. That first is they form and they get collapsed. Second is they are formed and they are getting condensed. And third is they are formed, break away, and they expel from this or expel to the vapor space, and their rapid evaporation happens. Now let's discuss the mechanism and cycle of bubbles in the following steps. So we need to focus on this figure simultaneously while we are learning this mechanism. First is the liquid next to the heated surface becomes superheated. So this is the first stage where liquid becomes superheated. Second is the vapor nucleus of sufficient size is created to initiate the formation of bubble. So here we are discussing about this vapor nucleus, small dot that you are observing here. We are discussing about this small nucleus. So vapor nucleus of sufficient size is created to initiate the formation of bubble. Third is bubble grow in a size, and see, we are at third stage now. Second stage is completed. Third is the bubble grow in a size and pushes the layer of superheated liquid away from the heated surface. So here this slightly bigger bubble pushes the liquid superheated liquid layer away from the heated surface because it has grown in the size now. Now the fourth stage here is that now the bubble has grown in sufficient size that the top of the bubble comes in the contact with the cooler liquid. That is, the top of the bubble here is this. So this top of the bubble comes in contact with the cooler liquid, and that has tendency to arrest the bubble growth. Now the fifth stage is this. Here the inertia of liquid and the bubble has caused the bubble to grow in size. So here the further growth of bubble is happening, and here this bubble now comes in a position that here it loses more heat to the cooler liquid. So it loses the heat to the cooler liquid, then it gains from the conduction from the heated surface. So two things are happening here, that this highest size bubble is getting the heat from the heated surface by conduction, and here this bubble is losing its heat to this cooled liquid here. So what happens that it is losing more heat than it is gaining from the surface. So ultimately this bubble is now in a stage where it is losing its heat energy. So now the next stage, that is sixth stage over here, the bubble begins to collapse because of loss of heat, and the cooler liquid gains the velocity to fill the bubble volume. So here as you can see, from the stage 5 to 6, the vapor bubble has reduced in size, that is it is collapsing now, and the cooler liquid gains velocity to fill the bubble volume. So here in the seventh stage, bubbles suffer a total collapse, as it can be seen here, and the inertia of cooler liquid brings in contact with the heated surface. So now because of the complete collapse, the liquid is in the cooler liquid is now in direct contact with the heating space, and the eighth stage here is exactly similar to the stage number 1. That is, eventually the cooler liquid gets heated above the saturation temperature, and the another cycle of bubble formation and its collapse begins. So now from point 8 to point 1, the cycle gets repeated. So the nucleate boiling is thus characterized by formation of bubbles at the nucleation sites, that is active sites, and the resulting liquid agitation. The bubble agitation induces the considerable fluid mixing that promotes substantial increase in the heat flux and boiling heat transfer coefficient. So this yields us the increased heat transfer at the activation sites. So now our last is film boiling. Last stage is film boiling. So here if you see, now we will be discussing this region in film boiling, where the heat flux reduces up to some point and then again it increases. So here two different behaviors are observed. In film boiling, the bubble formation is very rapid. The bubbles blanket the heating surface and they prevent the incoming fresh liquid from taking their place. So what is the meaning of blanket here? That the bubbles, as it was in film condensation, if you recall, the bubbles cover the heating surface. So that is the meaning of this blanket, that it covers the heating surface and it prevents the incoming fresh liquid from taking their place. Eventually the bubbles coalesce and form the vapor film which covers the surface completely. So this is very similar to the film condensation. The insulating effect of this vapor film, that is having low thermal conductivity, overshadows the beneficial effect of liquid agitation, and consequently heat flux drops with the growth in the temperature axis. So if you recall the downward curve that which we were observing in the third stage, that is film boiling, that is because of this, that some form of insulation is created because of the vapor film here. Now within the temperature range, that is delta T is from 50 to 150, the condition oscillates between nucleate and film boiling, and this phase is also referred to as transitional boiling, unstable film boiling, or partial film boiling. Eventually here the temperature difference is so large that the radiant heat flux becomes significant, and rather a controlling factor, the heat curve begins to rise upward with increase in temperature axis. That is the upward trend that we were observing, that was the last stage in the graph. This makes the region of stable film boiling, and this phenomena of stable film boiling is referred to as Leidenfrost effect. Now bubble growth and nucleate boiling. So the bubble formation in the nucleate boiling is greatly influenced by nature and condition of the heating surface and surface tension at the solid liquid interface. So the nature of heating surface and condition of heating surface and surface tension are important for how the bubbles are formed. The surface tension here signifies wetting capability of the surface with liquid. The surface tension signifies the wetting capability of the surface with liquid, and that influences the angle of contact between the liquid and solid surface. So here it should be liquid. Sorry, it should be bubble, we are not in condensation. So here, okay, let me type this. Any form of contamination of surface would affect its wetting characteristic and influence the size and shape of the vapor bubbles. So this will have a negative effect on the bubble growth. Based on the wetting characteristics, the vapor bubbles are assumed the shapes of the following shapes shown in the following figure. So three figures are there. First is not wetted, second is partially wetted, and third is totally wetted. So when the surface is free from any kind of wet, that is it is having high surface tension, the bubbles spread out and form a wedge between the heating surface and liquid. So we are discussing this figure where a wedge shape is created between the bubble and the heated surface over here. Next is for partially wetted surface, that is this case, the angle of contact has reduced and it is smaller than the unwetted surface. And here the surface, the area which is occupied by bubble is reduced. So here if you see, the area occupied in not wetted case was more, and here in partially wetted it is less. And obviously here the area of transfer of heat from the heated surface becomes larger. Now when the surface roughness counteracts the surface tension forces, the surface becomes fully wetted, that is in this case, the third case, fully wetted case. The vapor bubbles tend to become globular or oval size, that is here you can see that the vapor bubble is now in the oval shape, and they are more prompted disengaged from the surface. This situation is most favorable for efficient heat transfer because the area covered by the insulating vapor film is smallest over here. So it was larger here. If you see, the area was largest here in the wetted surface. Here it has been reduced, and here we are having minimum surface area in contact with this bubble. Now force balance for a spherical bubble. So the experimental evidence indicate that the vapor bubbles are not in thermodynamic equilibrium with the surrounding liquid. So here the vapor bubbles is not necessarily at the same temperature. The vapor inside the bubbles, that is we are discussing about inside fluid, is not necessarily at the same temperature as the liquid, and the vapor pressure PV inside the bubble exceeds the vapor pressure PL acting outside the hole. So here what is happening, that PV is greater than PL, and the figure indicates one such spherical bubble with the various forces acting upon it. First is the resultant pressure, that is the difference between these two, that vapor pressure is higher than the liquid pressure. So this pressure difference acts on the area pi r square of the bubble surface area, and the pressure here equals to pi r square into PV minus PL. And second force which is happening is surface tension force. So here the surface tension sigma of vapor liquid interface acts on the interface length, that is 2 pi r, that is periphery whole circumference, and here the surface tension force equal to 2 pi r into sigma. So we can equate them under the equilibrium conditions. So we can get the value of pressure difference PV minus PL as 2 sigma divided by r. Now the vapor may be approximated as a perfect gas, and we can write down this formula: dP upon dt is equal to PV upon RV HFG upon TV square. And it can also be written in this way. This is the second form, and you can count this as an empirical correlation because we are not going to derive this. Here HFG is latent heat of vaporization, Tv is the vapor temperature inside the bubble, T set is the saturation temperature of bubble vapor inside the bubble at pressure PV, and RV is the effective gas constant for the vapor. Comparing two equations, we can write down this. That is, instead of PV upon PV minus PL, what we have done? We have put this. We have utilized this in our next slide. So you can write down this equation: PV minus PL is equal to 2 sigma divided by R. So here that 2 sigma divided by R is put over here by comparing the equations. And finally, we are getting this temperature difference. Now let us say that a non-condensable gas is present inside the bubble. Considering a non-condensable gas inside the bubble exerting pressure Pg, then the previous formula that we saw, this formula will be slightly modified if a non-condensable gas is present inside the bubble. That is this, that is Pv plus Pg minus Pl is equal to 2 sigma divided by R. And the equation is further modified, so this equation is also modified over here with consideration of non-condensable gas. And here this equation, this is the equilibrium relationship between the bubble radius and amount of superheat. Now the important concept here is the bubble of radius r will grow if TL minus Tsat. Here TL is what? TL is temperature of the liquid surrounding the bubble. If the liquid temperature minus saturation temperature is greater than vapor temperature minus saturation temperature, then the bubble will grow only in this condition. The bubble will grow only in this condition. Otherwise it will collapse. Now the bubble diameter dB, is given by Fritz. Here dB is equal to CD into beta, square root of 2 sigma divided by G rho T minus rho V. Beta is angle of contact and empirical value or empirical constant is given by 0.0148 for the water bubbles. Nucleate pool boiling is influenced by various factors. First is material shape and condition of the surface. So it is the value condition under the identical condition of pressure and temperature. The boiling heat transfer is different for different metals. That is, copper has higher value than the steel. Further, a rough surface gives a better heat transmission than when the surface is either smooth or has been coated to weaken the tendency to get wetted. So this condition is also important. A rough surface gives a better heat transmission. Second is pressure. The temperature difference between the heating surface and the bulk, hence the rate of bubble growth is affected by pressure. So because of pressure, the temperature difference is affected and the rate of bubble growth is also affected. So maximum allowable heat flux for liquid increases with pressure until critical pressure, and then thereafter it declines. So with pressure it can increase, and after some critical value it will decrease. Next is liquid properties. So the bubble size increases with dynamic viscosity of liquid. With increase in bubble size, the frequency of bubble formation decreases and hence reduced rate of heat transfer. High thermal conductivity of fluid improves the heat transfer rate. So these are the factors which influence the nucleate pool boiling, and now we will go through the correlations for boiling heat transfer. So these correlations are just like the correlations we saw for free and forced convection. So we will be accepting them and we will utilize them in our numericals. So we will not discuss much on this. Here first is this equation we know, Q is equal to H delta T, where delta T is Ts minus Tsat. The boiling is a phase change process. The latent heat of fluid is absorbed and it involves changes in density, viscosity, specific heat and thermal conductivity of fluid. So the fluid behavior is very difficult to describe, so there is no adequate analytical solution for boiling heat transfer. So for that purpose we use the empirical relations. First is free convection boiling. So when the evaporation takes place at liquid vapor interface, the heat transfer is solely due to the free convection, and film coefficient is obtained by this formula. That we also know that this is the empirical correlation for free convection. Nu is function of Gr and function of Pr. So F1 and F2 here depends on the geometry of heating surface, and we can write down in terms of heat flux in this way. Where constant C and exponent M are determined from the experiments. Next is this is being repeated, okay. This is the same content which was present on the previous slide. Now Fritz correlated the data of different investigators and formulated the following relation for water boiling at atmospheric pressure in free convection in the vertical tube heated from the outside. So this is the relation that can be used. H is equal to 1.973 Q by A 0.75, which is equal to 15.11 delta T raised to 3. This correlation considers the fact that the bubbles rising in narrow space become more and more crowded and displace more fluid. Evidently, the fluid changes in composition, density and velocity. Here, with forced convection, the fraction of evaporation is small and the formation and motion of bubbles do not significantly get disturbed the turbulent flow pattern. This situation then corresponds to forced convection of single phase liquid. And this is the formula which we can utilize. Next is nucleate boiling. So here the function is same and Reynolds number is replaced by a modulus significant of agitation of fluid particles in nucleate boiling, and it is given by this formula. So this is slightly different Reynolds number, where dB is average bubble diameter with these values. And you can pause this video and go through all these nomenclatures by yourself. So we will be only accepting this, so you can pause this video and watch this. First is based on the extensive experimental data, Rosenau has developed the following correlation for Q upon A, that is heat flux. So here we have the viscosity, latent heat, density, surface tension, specific heat, temperature excess and Prandtl number. Here the subscript F and G refers to fluid and vapor states respectively, and surface fluid constant CSF depends on the particular combination of fluid and heating surface involved in the boiling situation, and is function of surface roughness and angle of contact between the heating surface. Next is Jacob has suggested following relation for nucleate boiling at atmospheric pressure on the flat surface with low heat fluxes. So this is the value for Nu and H, and a radical departure from the Jacob correlation is encountered when the boiling heat flux increases. So Fritz has modified this for the heat flux which ranges in this value. So this is the other formula that we can utilize. For nucleate boiling on the vertical flat plate, we can write down this relation. So if you see, both are very similar to these equations, only the coefficients, constant coefficients are changing over here. Okay. Here L is the characteristic length in case of vertical flat plate. Under the peak heat flux conditions, the vapor coming out of the vapor film is thought to be in form of pulsating jet or vortex sheet. The relative velocity at the interface produces an instability that causes the jet to break into spheres. So Zuber has proposed the following relation for heat flux, maximum heat flux, and here another correlation is this by Rosenau and Griffith. In film boiling, the minimum heat flux during the film boiling can be calculated using Zuber's correlation that is given by this formula. And heat transfer during the stable film boiling is due to both conduction and radiation from the heating surface through the vapor film, because here now radiation also comes into picture in case of stable film boiling. So for horizontal and vertical tubes, the following relations are used. HC is the heat transfer coefficient in case of film boiling. HR is for radiation, HC is for conduction, and HR is for radiation. And total heat transfer coefficient is combination of conduction coefficient and radiation coefficient. So this is the end of condensation and boiling. As well as this is the end of our online lecture course on heat transfer. I hope it was fun learning these heat transfer concepts with my lecture series. I thank you for watching all my videos on heat transfer, and I wish you all the best for your future. Thank you for watching this video.